Welcome to Business Budget Model tutorial on chart of accounts. If you have any questions, you can consult the user guide, which you can download from the website at the top, www.budgetbusinessmodel.com, or you can send an email to us at support@budgetbusinessmodel.com and we will respond to you. So once again, areas that we can set up, and today we're doing the chart of accounts. When you select that macro button, you will arrive at this particular screen. At the top, you will see some navigation buttons, which are macros, which will easily allow you to navigate between the various sections without having to manually scroll up and down. When you want to return to the navigation page, you simply click on that. Two important areas: the transaction indicator. The terminology will either be VAT or GST, depending on what you set up in the setup sheet. This selection is working on VAT, and simply VAT charged or VAT exempt, which we need to know for all the different charts of accounts. You'll also see that there are account numbers that you can capture on the side here. I'll get back to the impacts on cash flow a little later on when we deal with the balance sheet items. You have 8 revenue categories that you can set up, and whatever terminology you want to use. And for each of the 8 revenue categories, you have 5 subcategories. So in this particular example, revenue category usage has 5 set up. Any of the items that you are not using, any of the rows you're not using, you can simply hide them, and you'll see at the top here, here's the tip to hide. If you want to hide, you press Control, Shift and H keys simultaneously. It'll then ask you to enter the row numbers you want to hide. So if it's rows 20 to 30, you would put 20:30 and it will hide them. To unhide them is Control Shift U for unhide, and similarly you can put in the row numbers and it will unhide those. For these items, you can see they're set up with VAT charged. Then corresponding, you have the cost of sales categories. It will automatically assume the name of what you've put there, or you can type in a different cost of sale to a revenue category, whichever is your preference. You see, just scrolling down, we set up all 8 revenue categories and subcategories, and the cost of sale will also be set up. Home simply takes us back. So for revenue, cost of sales, we'll come back up here. If we want to go to the OPEX categories, we have effectively 11 categories. 10 of them you can name to whatever is appropriate for yourselves. And once again, if you capture account numbers, where the account numbers are used is when you want to export your model, your budget model, so that you can import it into your financial system, your accounting system. And there's an export function, and the link between your budget and your financial system obviously would be the account number. So there is an export sheet. We'll deal with that in a separate tutorial, so I won't go into that detail now. For each of your OPEX categories, the 10 that you can set up with whatever terminology you want, there are 6 subcategories per OPEX category. Incremental OPEX costs is used specifically for your multiple scenario modeling. It's hard-coded, and what I mean by that is that you cannot change this name. It's fixed there, and if you attempt to change it, it's going to give you an error message saying it's a protected cell. I will deal with that when we deal with revenue and cost of sale forecasts and what the importance of incremental OPEX costs is there. So simply capture all your OPEX categories and subcategories. Then we go off to the balance sheet items, and we'll start with CapEx. And with that, you'd set up your different your CapEx category names, your fixed assets, your current assets. Any cell that is in white, that is shown in white, are hard-coded cells that the system uses. So you cannot amend the descriptions of those. But any brown shaded cell, you can amend as you deem appropriate. With bank, there are 2 options. Either you have bank that you actually have funds in, or you would have an overdraft facility or a facility with the bank, and That will determine whether it's either an asset where you have money in it, or if it's a liability where you are borrowing funds from the bank to finance the business. And you will set it up accordingly. It's hard-coded there for bank as an asset and bank overdraft as a liability. For your balance sheet, you will select on this drop-down menu which one you are actually using. So from the cash flow model, it knows which account to update in doing and calculating your cash. Next, cash flow. This is a specific option where you might have, for example, an amortization account. And the effect of amortization does not affect your cash flow. So it's a simple yes or no option. The vast majority of accounts that you set up will have an impact on cash flow, so the default setting would be Y for yes. Okay, so that is a quick overview of the chart of accounts, which you would need to set up in order to go to the next stage, which would be to do your take on of your opening balances. So once again, click to go to home and click to navigation page, and that wraps up the quick tutorial on your chart of accounts. The next section we'll be dealing with would be assumptions. Hope to see you there. Thank you for joining us.